Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the KongaCast, where we discuss all things video games, especially relating to Nintendo. I'm your host, Adonis, and this is my co-host, Ryan. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day today.
I frickin' am. It is very warm out all of a sudden. I know it's even warmer where you are.
Yeah, it's like 65 near me, which is nice. I feel like spring is right around the corner. We're past daylight savings time as well, so the
Thank God.
evenings are getting longer. It's just good vibes, you know? You feel better when the weather's nice.
Yeah, I'm more of a cold weather guy, but I can always take a cold shower, right? So hope
There you go.
everybody's enjoying that nice weather. First in the news this week is one that I am very particularly invested in. Awesome news. Monster Hunter Wilds has sold 8 million copies in 3 days. Like that's absolutely mind blowing. That's a new record for Capcom. And for reference, for Monster Hunter World, I believe, if I remember correctly, it took them 3 months to sell that many copies.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wild is
I
a
was reading
success.
I was reading 5 months for Monster Hunter World, but either way, incredible feat for Monster Hunter Wilds. I mean, this was a highly anticipated game ever since it was announced back in 2024. People have had this on their radar. The steady climb of the Monster Hunter franchise should be studied because this was a franchise that debuted on the PS2, switched to mobile platforms kind of after that PSP, 3DS. Always was kind of niche and not even critically well acclaimed for a while either.
No,
But with the jump of Monster Hunter 4 on the 3DS and then Monster Hunter World, especially on PC when that came out, the series has just completely blossomed into something extremely mainstream, extremely popular, and critically well as well. I think Monster Hunter Wilds is sitting at an 89 right now on Metacritic, which is a fantastic score. Really cool to see the initial success of Monster Hunter Wilds with 8 million sold in just 3 days, and definitely more to come. What do you think about the sales so far, and kind of how you liking the game? Because I know you've finished the main story right now, so you're kind of onto the post game content. Am I right?
I am. Yeah, so I am fully into the end game now. And I will say my two critiques, get those out of the way right away. Performance still not great, but they're really starting to tune it up. I'm playing on a base PlayStation 5. I've been playing on resolution mode, and I usually am a frame rate guy, but I turned on resolution mode and I was like, wow, this is really pretty. So I'm leaving it at 30 frames per second. I'm hoping they can improve that in the future. My second criticism is that it's pretty easy. It's definitely pretty easy. I beat the whole campaign without carding a single time. I have since carded for the first time, only once though, only once.
Guarded.
So
Is that when they come
yeah,
in with the big like stretcher and they take your
yes,
character
I
away?
should explain. Yeah, good call. Carding is when you basically die, right? That's when your health goes to zero. You can get revived with certain skills, and you only get 3 carts per hunt, no matter who carts. So if there's 4 people and each like 3 people cart individually, the hunt's done. So yeah, I will say it's been very easy, but that's my only two gripes. The story really came together towards the end. My hunter is so cool. He's like a superhero, bro. There's just nothing that could take that guy. He's afraid of absolutely nothing. Just an absolute baller. My hunter is so cool. I named him Dundee, Monster Hunter Dundee. And his little cat, his little palico Glorp, is a green alien cat.
Glorp.
Yeah, good old Glorp. He is an MVP. He's a team player. That little guy. And I'm riding a bright purple secret. That's the mount, the Velociraptor dragon looking thing that every player gets. Just having an absolute ball, even into the end game. And to go back to what you were saying, like just the monumental run that Monster Hunter has been on. This is what happens when you listen to the players and you do things, but you don't forget where you came from, right? Monster Hunter Wild still has the soul of Monster Hunter. It has not lost it. I think that largely. Now that being said, I didn't play the very old Monster Hunters, but I've been playing Monster Hunter for quite a while, and Wild still feels like it has the soul of Monster Hunter in it. And this is just Capcom, another great win for Capcom, and they're only going to improve from here. Like usually, the game that comes out initially for Monster Hunter is improved by some sort of expansion with the G rank or master rank in Monster Hunter World. But the game's already, like, for me, like a 10 out of 10, and it's only going to get better from here. And imagine how well that DLC is going to sell. So yeah, like, this is just absolutely awesome. Very good to see a game be, put on a pedestal like this that deserves to be on that pedestal. Your game's selling well when people are saying that this game should flop like Dragon Age the Veilguard did. That's how you know.
Yeah, I mean, I was alluding to it earlier, but just the track record of this franchise and kind of how it's brought itself up to its current standing. It was not a commercial success out of the gate, but Capcom stuck true to the formula. I'm sure they got better at advertising and crap like that. I
Yeah.
think COVID very, very much helped Monster Hunter World, but all of that aside, Capcom deserves its praise for making the franchise what it is today. Monster Hunter World sitting at 28 million units sold. Uh, it sold okay at launch and it had an extremely strong tail, meaning, units sold after the initial launch window. And part of that was COVID, but also part of it was just the huge expansion that was released for it that got even more people into the franchise. Then you had Monster Hunter Rise, 16 million units sold so far. Very, very respectable, more than respectable. But Wilds, man, coming out of the gate already with 8 million sold in 3 days. I would anticipate it would take over Monster Hunter Rise at some point. Curious if it ever accomplishes becoming the best selling in the franchise and defeating Monster Hunter World. Guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, all I have to really say is credit to Capcom for a successful launch. One of the biggest games of the year so far, granted only about 2.5 months in, but really cool to see. Uh, yeah, and I'm
Sure is.
also cool to see that you're enjoying the game. I'm sure the post game will ramp up, hopefully, and will give you a little more difficulty than the core base game. So, yeah, anything else on Monster Hunter before we move on?
The game may ramp up, Ryan, but so do I.
Yes.
I'm getting stronger every day, buddy. But yeah, that's all. That's just great news, man. We needed some good news. I feel like we were on a bad news streak. In fact,
I
we
know,
have
yeah. I feel like
more good news.
last couple episodes maybe a little more negative, but we're starting off with a couple
Yeah.
positive stories here. So why don't we just get into our next one then, Adonis? So Split Fiction has released. This is the latest game from Hazelight Studios. People may know Hazelight Studios as the developers of It Takes Two and A Way Out. It Takes Two, of course, received a lot of critical and commercial acclaim. It won Game of the Year back in 2021. So at this point, I don't think Hazelight needs much introduction. I mean, their track record is fantastic, despite only having 2 games. So yeah, the new game from them, Split Fiction, has released. It's already sold 1 million units, which is fantastic for a indie studio, and is already reviewing very well as well. I mean, it's reviewing at 91, which is better than It Takes Two. It's also EA's highest scoring game since Mass Effect 3 13 years ago, which was kind of crazy when I heard that,
Oh
but it
God.
is what it is in that instance. So credit to Hazelight Studios and its founder, Joseph Fares. If you've ever seen Joseph Fares talk, he is a very eccentric guy. He's very much
Yeah.
a strong personality. He speaks a lot at the Game Awards and other, presentations such as that. He has got a lot of passion for his games, and he will go up on stage and say, "We only make good games. That's what we do. We only make good games. We don't make live service games." But yeah, really cool to see his vision come together with this latest game, Split Fiction, and great to see it doing so well out of the gate.
Yeah, and to see him back up his statements so strongly with
Yeah,
such good games, you don't see that very often. A lot of people called him. I remember I was watching the Game of the Year, the Game Awards, and people were saying, "Oh, this guy is cringe." And I remember being like, "Do you know who this is? Like, do you know who this guy is? Like, I don't think you do. He's got 2 bangers up to that point, and now he's got a third. It just goes to show that everything that he's saying all of which I agree with, works. It works. And I feel like he's just another example of what these companies should be really doing, how they should be operating. But
Yeah.
they don't learn. They never learn. Thank God. It kind of baffles me that this is an EA title because
Mm.
EA is not my favorite company in the world. I will never forgive them for what they did to Dead Space remake. It is on ice once again. So yeah, this is great, and I really like the game. Like, it looks like a lot of fun. I haven't picked it up yet, but I love dragons, and dragons were on the cover art. So good game in my opinion. Well, this is one that I think you and I would really enjoy at some
Oh
point.
yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah. So anyone who's unfamiliar with Hazelight Studios, they specialize in these like couch co-op games where two people have to work together to kind of weave through the story and weave through the gameplay. Um, so Split Fiction, no stranger to that philosophy, and that's exactly the gameplay. But if you watch the trailer for the game, like you're saying, Adonis, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening. You're two characters as you're constantly going through different fictionalized worlds, which means sometimes you're turning into a dragon, sometimes you're doing something else that's crazy. A lot of gameplay variety from the looks of it, and a lot of banter between the two characters as they're going through these crazy worlds. So really strong vision, I would say, just right off the bat, just a good foundation, and it looks to be very well executed and very well received. Again, sitting at 91 so far on Metacritic. So
Wow.
happy to see this because I mean, like we were saying, Ferris backs it up. He talks the talk and he says our games are awesome. They kick butt, all that good stuff, but they do. So it's cool to see him just so confident and forward about how much he loves his games and his vision, and it's cool to see it pan out. I very much think this game will eventually come to Switch too, and if it's not already, it'll come to PC. But right now, it's just on. Well, it is on PC, so it's just right now on PlayStation, Xbox, and Windows. But this will definitely make the jump to Switch 2 once Switch 2 is out, because Switch 1 already has It Takes Two.
Yeah, that's what I played. It Takes Two on was the Switch, and it was a
Hmm.
really good port. This is like bread and butter Switch type of game, right? I
Yeah,
mean, I feel like I only couch game when I'm playing on the Switch, and this is like the quintessential couch game. And I wanted to say something about the dialogue, right? This is a kind of dialogue that in another game that would be totally like it would be totally screwed up. The dialogue between two
yeah,
characters, this is the kind of dialogue that's like campy and silly and not serious, and there may be some serious moments, but generally it's comical, kind of Marvel esque humor. I know that's
yeah. We've talked about that
yeah,
before.
we talked about it. Yeah, so we kind of know what I'm talking about, right? But it seems as though they did it in a way that respects the audience and it doesn't take itself too seriously while also not treating the audience like they're 5-year-olds, you know?
Yeah,
So I feel like a lesson can be learned from, the storytelling in this game now, where I feel like I've seen a lot of games lately try to tell a story that's just, and especially use dialogue that is just like sandpaper. Forspoken always comes
yeah.
to mind when I say that, right? Um, so yeah, I worried that that's what this kind of game would be like. It would be really like way too far in one direction, but it seems like they struck a nice balance, which I literally was like, that's gonna be the number one thing that I'll probably have a problem with. But it seems as though that everybody likes it. Like it's fun. It's not too serious, but it also doesn't treat you like a 5-year-old. And the gameplay itself looks like so much fun. A lot of good speed run too. I can't wait to see how this game is like how people speed run this game.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we don't see a whole lot of games that have such a strong focus on co-op uh, in like the speed running light. But you're so right, where there is a lot of potential for this. If two people just have the skills, they can just speed run it together. Last thing I'll say about this, I think the studio in general with all their games really excel with this. Um, these kind of games are like perfect for people that are not traditional gamers. I could totally see myself sitting down and playing this with my wife. I know I have friends that have sat down and played this with their partners who are not traditionally gamers, that kind of thing. So like credits to the studio for again doing something really unique that's not like the most mainstream thing to do is making a bunch of couch co-op games in 2025 and doing them really well. So really cool.
Keep doing your thing, guys. You're kicking butt. I freaking love them.
Absolutely. All right. Well, why don't we get into our last topic before we get into what we've been playing recently? I feel like we're kind of whizzing by this episode, but that's okay. So,
Yeah, smaller
next
topics.
topic we have, yep, next topic we have is kind of a weird one. So, Activision has started to post some AI images on their social media feeds. One is for Guitar Hero Mobile, and I'm going to describe this. This is probably bad podcasting, but I'm going to describe this as best I can. Describe this AI image, but effectively, it's just a very clear AI image of a Guitar Hero game for mobile that doesn't actually exist right now, which I'll get to in a minute. But just very clearly AI, all the characters are just very stiff looking. There's just like a lot of warpage to the image and a lot of like circularness that you get with AI imagery. And again, like I mentioned, this is for a game that does not exist. So apparently, this is Activision's way of sort of market testing to see if there's interest for things like a Guitar Hero mobile game. Afterwards, a couple other images also popped up on their social media pages. Um, but yeah, I don't know if this is the best way to go about it, the best way to kind of gauge market interest on a dormant franchise. I would prefer, these companies that have a lot of money. Why don't you just hire a talented artist to just kind of queue up some key art for you, or some art for you to post on your feed? I don't know why you need to do AI art. I don't think that gets a lot of people excited, Adonis. What do you think?
I'm gonna, you know what? Activision, come here, Activision. We gotta talk. All right, this is Activision we're talking about. Activision that is commonly associated with Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, right? Blizzard has one of the best art departments I've ever seen in a video game. World of Warcraft has beautiful artwork. Overwatch has beautiful artwork. Hell, the even Activision has their own beautiful division and titles. Could you not have gone out of your way to just make a little, like, you know, human created piece of art for this teaser? It would have cost you next to nothing, and you wouldn't have taken the damage to your reputation. And to be clear, this is a very obviously AI generated photo. It's very obvious. There's no doubt in your mind when you look at this and you're like, let's say you're scrolling through Twitter and just you see one bot account that's just posting AI pictures over and over again. Like, this is the kind of thing you would see. This is the kind of thing would be like, yo, wouldn't a Guitar Hero mobile game be so cool? And this is the image that they would post, right? It's
Yeah,
just such a bad look. And for me, like, I don't necessarily have a huge problem with AI art, but I do if it's being used by a giant company with millions of dollars to play around with. Like, hire somebody, put money into the market. Like, just you're just being extra cheap. Like, it was so easy to avoid this. And like, honestly, I like the idea of a Guitar Hero mobile game. Like, it sounds like
yeah.
fun. But now I am way not cool with it. Like, it's just such a bad look, you know?
It's a really bad look. That's the sticking point to me is it's just such a bad look for people to kind of discover this. And like I mentioned, it's a very high run corporation. That now rolls up to Microsoft. They have money. They can hire artists
They
to
do.
again queue up some key art and post on their social media feeds to see if there's any interest. Also, a little misleading to kind of label it as Guitar Hero Mobile and put your trademark underneath it, and it's not really a game. So it's
Oh
again just kind of a
yeah.
weird thing to do.
I noticed
But
that.
number two, I mean, just how stupid could you be? Because this is 2025, like AI art's been around for a couple of years now. Consumers are very, very keen to this kind of stuff. They pick up on this super, super easily nowadays. And this is like very amateurish looking, like very much, very clearly AI. This looks like a program that would have been used like several years ago, not even the latest like
It
AI
does.
image tech. And I don't mean to pile it on, but it's just like I was saying, number one, how could you be so foolish to kind of put yourself in a light like this. And number two, it's just super obvious, man. Like what's going on here?
Yeah,
You
and
know?
for anybody who looks it up, the image, look at the speakers in the background. That's all you need to see. Like the speakers in the
Yeah.
background, they're like melting. There's always something that just makes it look uncanny valley. And for me, what does bother me about AI is like a non-human creation. Like a human didn't create this, and not having that heart behind whatever is being created, whether it be an image or a video or a voice or anything like that feels weird. Not bad, at
Yeah.
least for me, but just weird. And you're exactly right. Like stop doing this. You have the capital. First of all, you have the talent, which you're paying to make art for you. You might as well tell them to make a quick little promotional image. It's just, it's so frustrating, man. And it's kind of frustrating specifically. Um, I can't imagine the artists that work for Activision. They're like, "Are you serious? Like, I would have done this for you." Imagine being like working for Activision and seeing that. Like, I wouldn't want to work for Activision after they did something like that, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's just, I mean, we talk a lot about bigger corporations just kind of being out of touch. This is out of touch. And that's not to say, like, I don't think AI art has no place in the industry. I think that there isn't a
yeah,
place, but I mean, I've always said this that AI is a tool. It should not be like a replacement for a human touch. Um, or it should be like an assistance to human touch. So, like, how I think AI art should be used in the gaming industry. Perhaps, companies should use AI art to kind of help their creators get a little inspiration or, some example like that where, hey, let's think about a cool way to show a new promotional art for Guitar Hero. Don't post that for your consumers to see. Rather, keep it internal and say, "Hey, why don't we have our best artists draw something like this, or come up with something that looks like this?" And then they can take it and run with it and make it their own style and put their own flair on it and make it look more human. Yeah, just a silly promotional art blunder from Activision here, where it's very clearly AI and immediately just puts a sour taste in everyone's mouth because gamers are very privy to this, and consumers in general are very privy and have a good eye to spot this kind of stuff. So just kind of really, really silly all around, I should say.
yeah, you're totally right, and I really like your point about how AI has its place, and maybe not, uh, you know, it still has its place, especially in imagery, but like it's a tool. At the end of the day, you're right. It's a tool, and there's actually a really cool thing that AI is being used for. And since we've kind of gunned it through the news this week, there's not too much. I wanted to talk about this. Have you
Sure.
heard about Asterion, the world's first fully AI like machine learning raid boss?
No, I have not. Why don't you tell me?
So Nvidia has used their AI tech to create this cool looking giant boss like in a video game. It's not really attributed to any game right now. It's just like a prototype kind of thing and it's in development. The boss is like this giant gnarly looking monster. It's got like two heads and with one eye on each head, like a raid boss in an MMO, right? Like in World of Warcraft, like Ash of Creation. Um, and it learns from the player. So it can adapt its fighting style to best beat the group of players. It's actually a group of players, like classic D&D party. Like the monster will recognize, oh, that player is healing all the other players, so I have to get that player first, and that player is trying to get my attention. I have to try to ignore him and go for the player that's doing the most damage against me, and it continuously learns and learns and learns to create. Every time you fight it, it's different. It's a unique fight every time because it learns on the fly using machine learning. That is what I think AI should be used for because that's awesome, right? Like imagine
Yeah.
an Elden Ring boss like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so like this is a great example of Donis of like maybe how like developers can kind of use this kind of stuff to the benefit of the player because AI, this is like such a buzzword in the last couple of years, but there's always been AI in video games. It's never been machine learning. It's always been, what the programmer has programmed it to do and it doesn't learn off of it necessarily. But a machine learning AI where like a boss can, in theory, learn who's doing the most damage to it, like how the humans are best attacking it, so it can counterattack. That's
So
cool.
cool.
I mean, that leads to like more interesting gameplay scenarios and stuff. Um, so what you're saying is we're gonna teach AI how to beat human opponents in combat. Sure, there's no issue there, you know.
No, what could
I'm
go
just kidding.
wrong,
Yeah,
dude? That's kind of what like spoilers for what I've been playing this week. That's what Helldivers feels like. It feels like the enemy learns when it fights against you, like when to come after you, when to fall back, and like the use of AI in scenarios like Helldivers, like Elden Ring, like Monster Hunter, like that's exciting. Like that's what I want AI being used for, not to replace jobs. I don't know why they're so gung ho to replace their workforce with an AI that is just vastly good point. So for
indeed.
anybody who's just listening, Ryan just put his hand up and went money. Good point. Yeah, that's a good point. But it's also never going to work. Like AI is starting to plateau in its development, and it's not anywhere near the normal intuition of a human being. Yeah, it can play chess really good, but you know, it doesn't have the human intuition, and that has never been more present than with this Activision image for Guitar
Yeah.
Hero. Like it does not have that heart that humans do have. So I figure since we had two really happy stories, we'd finish off this not so happy story with something even cooler. And I'm gonna look more for stuff like this because, to be honest with you, I just think that's so freaking cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty sweet. That's the kind of stuff that, people should be using. Like I said, it's a tool. It's not replacing the programmer who's putting it all together, who's modeling it and, making the boss look crazy and all that good stuff. It's a tool to basically give the boss a brain per se, to better fight, the players, that kind of thing. All right, cool. Good stuff, man. So, do we want to jump into what we've been playing recently?
Sure do. Got some pretty cool stories. You go first though.
All right. So, I don't have anything new per se. I've just been continuing to play Fire Emblem 6, The Binding Blade. Uh, and I probably have played like 2 chapters since we last talked. So, I mean, like a chapter can take up to an hour, depending on how slow you are to, go through the battle, that kind of thing. But it's starting to get me. I'm starting to like it more. I was liking it, but if I felt like it was like really hard for the beginning of the game. So I did a little research, and the Fire Emblem community, very tight knit. Everyone's giving each other tips all the time because there's so much to these games. There's so many different ways you can tackle them. So much depth a lot of the times. And a lot of people were saying, yeah, Fire Emblem 6, it's a tough one because the hit rates are just really bad, just in general across the board. Other Fire Emblem games, the other one I've played, a lot of times I'm very comfortable going in with like a 95% chance or 100% chance to hit. I mean, of course I am, but like
Hit
that's the
rate
kind
is
of expectation I have.
like roll to hit, right? Kind of like in Dungeons and Dragons, like to hit your enemy.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, you move your unit next to your enemy unit and you hover over attack. And as you're hovering over, it gives you the stats. You're going to do this much damage. You have 95% chance to hit, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, in this game though, a lot of the hit rates are just low. Like everything is in the 70 to 80 range, or lower. Especially if you're an axe wielder, it's like 50 to 60. So it's just like across the board, that makes it harder. So now that I've kind of understood that, a lot of people are like, hey, with that in mind, you just need a backup plan in case you miss. So you can't just go in with one unit. You got to have two or three, for one guy, just in case you miss, because you got to be able to cover. So now that I know that, I'm kind of approaching battles differently, feeling more comfortable in the game, and enjoying it more, I would say. The other game I've been playing Portal 2, and we have not played the co op since we last podcasted,
Yeah, I've been
but I
busy.
did play the entire single player mode in the last couple days, and it's fantastic. I don't want to like go into any story bits, but I mean, Portal just excels at its setting and its characters and its witty dialogue, is what I'll say. Just really enjoyed the story and the dialogue from start to finish, and the puzzles, of course, were fantastic too. Really gets the brain juices flowing.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, did you really feel that same amount of like brain challenge in single player mode? Because I feel like in two player, like you could definitely rely on your partner a lot more, and I feel like
Yeah.
single player really does like it is the like the ultimate challenge for your puzzle solving. Right? Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say in co-op you do have a tendency or the ability really to lean on your teammate if you needed to. In single player, it's just you, man. So you got to rely on your own intuition. I never felt like the puzzles were super, super over the top hard. There's not like a lot of red herrings. Like everything's very purposeful. So like if there's only like 5 spots to put your portals, it's only a matter of time till you find out the right combo to like kind of get yourself going, and then your brain's going in the right direction, and then you're solving the puzzle. So um, yeah, and then there's also like bits where like you're kind of not in a test room. You're kind of like out in the open, and you have to like look around. It's like, okay, like I gotta go across this huge stretch of space. So you're kind of like you're zooming in and searching for a place to put a portal. So like a good amount of variety in the puzzles as well. It's not always like, you know, this, and this to get it done. It's more like how do I like move across this huge amount of space in an efficient way? So like cool stuff like that.
Yeah, and I it's really interesting. Like the setting for Portal should be boring. Like you're in a factory, right? And somehow it's not. Valve is so good at making boring landscapes interesting. I don't know how they do it. It's just I feel like this is another showcase of just, masterful game design. And I wish they would start
Absolutely.
making more games. I
Yeah,
wish they
now I
would
want
do
Portal
that.
3. I'm not gonna lie. I want Portal 3 really. I'm like, I just
Well,
want more of this.
Rye, I got bad news for you. Valve does not know how to count up to three. Team Fortress 2,
I
Portal
know.
2, Half Life 2. Not looking
Yeah.
good.
Left 4 Dead 2.
Left 4 Dead 2. Oh my
They literally can't
god.
count the 3.
I genuinely think that is an internal joke. Like, never do a trilogy. And there is some truth to that. There is definitely some examples of why you should not do a trilogy. Borderlands 3, um, that's the only one I can think of at the moment.
There's a lot of examples of why you should. You should make a
That was
Portal
what I was
3.
going to say next. I know. I've been playing Valve games my entire life. And, man. Oh, man. All right. I got to calm down. I got to calm down. Everything's fine. It's a great game. Portal 2, amazing. And yeah, we'll be finishing that two-player up at some point. We just had a lot going on. We actually hung out over the weekend. We had to say a farewell to a friend of ours. Edon, if you are listening, we will miss you. He's moving to Denver away from us.
Bye
Very
bye.
sad.
Bye forever.
Bye, Don. Yeah, we had a good time. We danced it out. Yeah, I guess that technically counts of what we've been playing. We've been playing IRL. Played IRL together. Man, I'm a nerd. You're a nerd
Good
too.
stuff.
Um,
Yeah, I mean that was all I played. I wasn't really playing a lot of games this past week. I've also been watching a lot of shows. I've been catching up on Invincible. Invincible's been great. So,
oh,
random
oh my
stuff like that.
goodness. If you know, you know.
I don't know if I know yet. I got a couple more episodes, so no spoilers, nothing.
Yeah. Well, I read the comics, so I already know everything that happens. But like,
Okay.
man, that show is so good. Highly recommend for anybody listening to check out Invincible. And for those of you who are caught up, you know. So that's all I will leave that at. For me, I spent a lot of time at home the last few days, so I've actually had a pretty decent amount of game time, like kind of gaming while I'm doing other stuff on the computer. Like I had an interview today, like I was literally just like grinding, getting ready for the interview, while like playing games. I'm a masterful multitasker. Yes, I know multitasking isn't good for you, but um, I'm good at it. So shut up. First of which I've been playing is Monster Hunter, obviously. I have been really bouncing around on which weapons I've been using. Lance is wildly powerful, very much so. The defensive front runner. You got a giant shield in the Lance. You can parry, perfect block, and just poke, 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 poke until the monster goes down. A lot of fun, like way more fun than I thought. It doesn't sound like fun, but when you start charging up and going like 60 miles an hour just with your feet, with your legs, and jumping and mounting a monster and knocking it down, you realize, oh, actually, Lance is really fun. And my other weapon has been great sword. just a big old greatsword, baby. It's literally like the way it does damage for anybody who doesn't know or hasn't played Monster Hunter. Greatsword is like you get one hit every like 30 seconds to a minute. But boy, does that hit do a lot of damage. It's like,
Hmm.
way more damage than anything in the game. In fact, I think the most damaging attack is through the true charge slash on the greatsword, which is like the full combo. Um, so I've been having a lot of
Don't
fun with
miss.
that. Yeah, don't miss. Just don't miss, and you will a lot. Although they did a good job in Wilds because the focus mode always faces you towards the monster. So if you hold L2 or toggle it, if you have that setting in your if you have that toggled in your setting, um, you'll always face the monster. So I feel that's a huge barrier to entry for the old Monster Hunter games. That's completely negated. And I understand people are like, well, you have to learn the positioning, and like if you miss, it's your fault. It just feels bad. And 9 times out of 10, a new player is gonna miss. And when they miss 3 times in a row, they're probably gonna rage quit. I want people to overcome that barrier and experience the goodness, the just sweet goodness of Monster Hunter. It's the simple, a drug like goodness of Monster Hunter. Yeah, so I'm getting close to the super end game, doing tempered monsters, fully solo. I don't need no help. In fact, solo is kind of easier actually. It's the monsters have less health. So yeah, having a good time. Um, Also been playing some Helldivers. Not looking good, Ryan. I feel like that's 3 weeks in a row where I'm just like, the war is not looking good.
Dang. I'm sorry to
The
hear.
Yeah, it's all right. Hey, it may be bad, but you bet your sweet bippy I'm still gonna fight. Actually, the war got shut down for a few days because of a cybersecurity issue. No
Oh,
one
really?
knows what happens, and I haven't really looked up what happened, so we might know now. But for like as far as I know, something happened in terms of like a breach, and the rates for the liberation of planets on the war map was way through the roof. Like we were getting through planets like lickety split, and it totally ruined like the flow of the war. So
Yeah.
they shut it down. Like no major order, like no progression, nothing. Like you could play obviously, but no progression on the war for a few days. It's the first time that's ever happened, which kind of gave us a little bit of a well-earned breather, from just going gung ho after the Terminus, the Automatons, and the Illuminate. But now the war has recommenced, and the black hole is moving ever closer to Super Earth. It is on the brink of swallowing another planet on its path towards Super Earth, and boy, we are fighting as hard as we can. In fact, I literally was playing right before we got on the call today. So yeah, but the war sucks, but man, the game is so much fun. Like it's so much fun. Randoms like literally like in voice chatting with each other, which
Yeah.
we've talked about before. That never happens. Never ever happens. Um, so yeah, people are still loving that game. Just sitting around like 75 to 100,000 people playing at any time. Very much so retaining its audience. Just great to see. It's just such a good game,
Nice.
and the devs are awesome. Yeah. So the last thing I've been playing, kind of religiously, is Ash of Creation. Obviously, I have been playing that almost every day. Alexander, the strongest pirate, veteran of the war, and now an official member of the actual Pirates Vanguard. So the way our guild works is, and this is pretty public knowledge. This is not an OPSEC violation. Uh, I think I've explained this before. It goes like normal, guildy, like player. Then there's the Armada in our guild, which is like people who want to get into PvP. And then there's the Vanguard. The Vanguard is the dedicated guild. Like if another guild, another group of players declares war on us, we are on the front lines. And I officially got through my interview process for the Vanguard, which is crazy to
Nice.
say. It's very involved, which I kind of like. I think it's really fun. It's like kind of like a D&D campaign, right? Like it's very involved, like lots of social implications. And my induction to the Vanguard was really cool. I got congratulated by a bunch of players and stuff, and now I get to officially defend my city of Halcyon. Um, and immediately after joining, we got a guild war. Immediately, the Federation. The Federation is a common enemy of the pirates. We are the pirates, the actual pirates. And they decided to, on a Sunday, earlier on a Sunday, which most of our guild is online for, to just declare war after war after war. Now, the way guild wars work, I mentioned node wars. That's like two cities going at it. Guild wars is just like smaller guilds going at it, smaller
Okay.
groups of players. And there is the PvP objective, which is just like beat the other team up, get a bunch of player kills, and then you win. But there's also a gathering objective that which if you complete it, you get a bunch of points, and then you can win that way. And the objective, we actually were beating them in terms of PvP, although it was very close. I couldn't even say if we were beating them or not. But we decided, well, why don't we just go do the gathering objective, which ended up being cutting trees down. So we split up, we dodged them because it ended up getting more players than us, and we chopped down trees, a lot of trees, and they didn't like that. They didn't like that. They were so unbelievably mad. This is the most angry I've ever seen a group of players in a video game. And I grew up playing Modern Warfare. Just people crashing out in the global chat, absolutely losing their minds in Discord, just going crazy, like unhinged behavior. I saw an alarming amount of slurs in that chat. It
Oh,
was really
geez.
bad. It was awful. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And we won the first, and then they immediately declared another one. So then we chopped down more trees and won. Then they did it again. And they did it 12 times in a row. And we won every single one of those wars. They kept instantly declaring we would cut down trees and we would win the war. And in fact, I think other pirate guilds, they declared war on other pirate guilds as well. And they won those too. So we literally beat them like 20 times in a row on my very first day of being a Vanguard. Man, that was great. But then the next day, there was no gathering objective. And we were like, all right, well, it's time to go fisticuffs. And they declared the war. This was yesterday, actually. I think today's Tuesday, right? Yeah, so they did it yesterday. And it was late. Most of our guild is offline because it's a primarily EU guild. And the Federation declared war on us. And at first, we were doing pretty good. But then the Federation got lots more players than us. It was like 30v15, if that, if we even had that. Oh my, it was very bad. We got our butts beat. They were very motivated to beat us. I wonder why. And, just more terrible sayings in global chat being thrown at us. Like they would come into our city and just kill people for fun, like not letting people do their normal economic things, just disrupting. And I wasn't having any of that. I Alexander stands for Halcyon. I don't care how many people I have to fight, and I don't care how many times I have to die to defend Halcyon. I will do it without question. And I did it at least 100 times. I dove into their ranks and just instantly died at least 100 times, just trying to get a player kill because most of my guild was like, we can't do this. And I was like, well, I ain't backing down. So I just kept running in and dying, kept running in and dying. I did it so many times, and every time you die, you get equipment damage. So your gear actually takes durability. And I had to fully repair my gear like 4 times. And I just kept shouting in the shout chat, for Halcyon, and then just immediately dying. Cinema.
That's beautiful. That is a beautiful story. I
Absolute
mean,
cinema.
you laid your life on the line for your cause, and I gotta respect that. That's just fantastic.
Hey,
So
that's what Alexander's all about, baby. He is all in for Halcyon. It doesn't matter what the odds are. He took on a dragon for Halcyon. He lost. But it's all about courage. And you can't be courageous without being scared first.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, any other games you've been playing this week before we
No,
wrap
that's
up the show?
it. That's it. I adore Ashes of Creation, man. It's really a shame to see the community, some people in the community saying horrible things, but I got it all on camera. So the devs are going to find out, and it looks like some
Oh,
people are going to be losing their access to the game. Hey, the good old
ouch.
law of FAFO. I can't say that because that's a that's a curse word. But you mess around and you find out.
Hmm. Alrighty then. Well, thanks for that recap. And why don't you just go ahead and wrap up the show for us, though?
All right. That is going to wrap it up for today, folks. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Music and follow the show to hear more. Stay up to date. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at KongaCast. And for all business inquiries, please email kongcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great day. We will see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.